Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Cosmetics Business is very proud to be working with Nuon, and today we have Gerald Martines, founder of Insignes, Alain Dijkstra, CEO of Nuon Medical Technologies, Andrew Silberstein, president of Solawave, and Denise van Gulik, co-founder and CEO of Céleste Originals Brands, and they'll be offering an insight into the beauty packaging innovations of 2025. Please use the chat function to ask any questions you may have, which will be answered at the end. Now, over to today's speakers.
Hey, Max, how are you doing?
Thank you very much for joining us again. Very happy to interview you one more time. As the CEO of Nuon Medical Technologies, you've been now at the forefront of revolutionizing beauty through very much cutting-edge technologies. And would like to highlight one of the things, Nuon's approach to innovation. Nuon Medical Technologies is known for really looking on a future-focused approach to beauty and cosmetics markets with focus on packaging. How do you approach innovation in this space?
So, Max, I think the only real way to approach innovation is by always looking at the end user. So looking at the end user development, user trials, and going towards the efficacy of how not only reach the end results, but also how they approach a product and how they use a product, I think is key for the innovation. And that is something that we focus on day in, day out with Nuon here.
Okay. Could you share an example maybe of Nuon's technologies and how it has actually transformed a product line, for example, of a brand?
So I can tell you this, that there isn't a top 10 brand that isn't looking in adding electronics or end user experiences to the current cosmetic solutions. So I can tell you that pretty much all the market leaders are moving towards this direction. Just because we have NDAs with all these bigger players, we can't say any names, unfortunately. But I can tell you that 2025 is definitely a year of disruption in the cosmetics industry. And of course, if they plan well ahead, 2026 is even looking more innovative.
Wow. Okay. Integration of advanced technologies in this case, then I would presume that you're working on. But Nuon specializes very much in the advanced technologies like light therapy, microcurrents, or smart packaging, even AI. How do these technologies enhance product efficacy and user experience?
So our technologies are only from one core, and that is to enhance the experience. That isn't always enhancing the experience of the efficacy. There's also the usability. That's the whole charade of how the customer is interacting with the cosmetics right now. You can see it as a 1 and 1 is 3 combination here, making sure we always deliver that 30% extra. And saying so, I can tell you that we have been making medical devices for so many years. We have been doing this in the professional industry, and just standalone, these devices are very efficacious. Now bringing them to the cosmetic industry, and then now looking, okay, how can we enhance the usage of the cosmetics is so much fun, because you just see not only just the users, but you see even the formulators, the brands, innovators. You see them all go like, wow, we have another chance here to go and showcase what we're doing and what we're doing best by magnifying what they're already doing today.
Wow. Okay. And so what role does customization basically play in integrating these technologies into the product to be different in the market?
So personalization is key to success right now in the market. And you see that with every technologies out there. Consumers, they still want to see more personalization because they know their skin is always a different skin from somebody else. So what we have here is we have the ability, the necessity to showcase that we are a personalized solution. doing so, we added measurement technologies. So what we did is we add technologies to add to your cosmetic packaging, where you're able to see figures like what is your oil level on your skin, what is the moist level on your skin, what is the temperature, the pH, all the way to how is the acne on your skin, and how is the
Wow.
collagen or the wrinkles. So all these measurements technologies we combine into one solution, what is really a tailor-made consumer product. And customers that experience such a program, they end up really sticking to that. And because it gives you back feedback, it gives you back live feedback of the situation of your skin. It retains customers a lot easier, because they don't just go jumping back and forward from one cosmetic brand because they don't see an instant effect, or they don't see an effect within the next 2 months. But actually, when you're reading out the data by measuring it on your skin, you can very clearly showcase what the customer should be doing, what he should be using, and how he's proceeding his program.
Okay, wow. With the all these technologies for regulatory and compliance, with Nuon having a global reach and doing business with global partners, how do you ensure that the technologies meet these diverse regulatory requirements? For example, in EU and US and Asia, because it's changing very quick as well, I believe.
Yeah, so the regulatory landscape is changing rapidly, and it's moving stricter as we're speaking. I can tell you that as a seasoned medical device manufacturer, we have successfully operated in these regions for many, many years, all the way from Korea, Japan,
Wow.
Canada, US, Europe. There isn't a country that we haven't touched on a regulatory basis. Now, we have been operating the medical device industry for more than 100 brands. And we have been doing their regulatory work all for them in-house. So having such a team in-house and being able to do this regulatory work for these brands, I can tell you that we definitely have the capability to make a medical device and bring it all the way back to consumer market. Yes.
Wow. Okay. And what kind of strategies do you think are most effective in helping, let's say, partners navigate this or maintaining innovation?
So what we did with Nuon is we create this spin-off, and now in Nuon itself, we did another spin-off in innovation. We call it the Launch Lab. The
Okay.
Launch Lab is making sure that we stay ahead of regulatory and innovation trends to keep our partners competitive. So the key for this Launch Lab is that it's directly linked to our R&D division, and Launch Lab will be publicizing and reporting about our latest technologies on a monthly basis.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, we have to ask this question, of course. Sustainability in beauty tech, sustainability is a big part, or it's increasingly important. How does Nuon incorporate the eco-conscious practices into, let's say, the technology or product design?
So sustainability in the market of medical devices is very contradictory, because we can't use recycled materials, not unless they are broken down into a molecular basis. So on the medical device industry, we are not sustainable in the way that you would like to see us using recycled materials where we don't know the biocapability of from onto your skin.
Okay.
So the key of the medical devices is ensuring and making sure the safety of the consumer and directly in use with the skin doesn't cause any allergies and rashes and things like this. So in this case, we are totally not sustainable. But I can tell you that on the other side, when we are doing our user studies, we see that we're the most sustainable device out there, just because of one little thing. We're adding value to their current cosmetics. So once you start adding value to what they're already using, then it comes a point for a consumer saying, okay, I'm not throwing this away anymore. I'm now using this and I'm keeping this because this is actually adding value to my daily cosmetic routine. It's not just another bottle that's inside another bottle to make sure that you can buy a refill kit. No, it's a bottle that actually has a function, but makes it possible for the consumers to say, hey, I'm not throwing this away. I'm keeping this and I'm buying the refill kit. So definitely on the long run, adding a technology like a measurement device or a medical treatment to your packaging is the most sustainable way to approach the consumer market.
Basically creating real value then with packaging. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all towards the end user. So
Wow.
once you have that vision of, okay, we add value towards the end user, then at that moment, sustainability, efficacy, everything starts to gain traction and you really get the consumer on your side.
Wow. Okay. So let's look ahead. As I know that you're also always focusing on the future. What trends in the beauty tech do you see shaping the industry really?
So the trends right now, as it goes, we have always been looking into the clinical side of the industry. So by looking into the clinical side of the medical industry that we have been into for the last 18 years, I can tell you that the biggest trend right now is hair care, actually.
Okay.
So what you see on the medical device clinical studies that are coming out, we've seen about 20 years ago that face care, wrinkle care, acne care was very trending in the research market. Now I can tell you that the last couple of years, hair care, hair regrow, just scalp care is trending like nothing we have seen before. So definitely 2025, 2026 is going to be one of the biggest hair care years there is.
Okay. Uh, how is Nuon preparing to meet the demand basically for these customization, like visible results, all of the things that you mentioned?
So, because we are talking not about 50,000 or 100,000 units, we're talking about many multiple of millions of units here. The only way to really fulfill these needs is by automation, robotic enhancements, and making sure that we step back from the process and process it in a way that everything is automated. So once you come and visit our factory in Nuon, you can see everything is done in an automated process where we're capable of being able to produce those very, very large consumer orders.
Okay, wow. So, closing question for you here. If you could leave now, and the audience, of course, looking here with a key takeaway about the future and technologies in beauty and cosmetic packaging, what would that be?
I would say always and only one thing, prioritize the customer experience. That's the only real core that you get to your brand. And once you prioritize that as a brand, then everything else will go with it. Where if you can alleviate the experience and create that very meaningful customer experience, then at the end of the day, I believe your brand will be a huge success doing so.
Okay, well, Alain, thank you so much for your time and this interview. Very interesting. And well, we'll see each other soon.
Thank you so much, Max. It was a
Thank you very
great,
much,
great
Alain.
interview. Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye bye. Gerard, thank you very much for joining us. As a founder of InSigns, you've been pioneering and driving innovation for cosmetic packaging solutions. Could you briefly introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you for mentioning that I founded InSign, which is actually my current business. It's a small consultancy. It's a two-people multinational company operating in the field of. I'm providing counseling. But before that, I think it's more important. I spent 30 years in the cosmetic industry, working at some major packaging suppliers. And I had the good fortune, it was not planned that way, but it just happened so that I worked in all the fields of beauty. So fragrance, cosmetics, skincare, and so on, and also with all the materials that are the typical materials that are used in that field: plastics, glass, aluminium, metal, Zamac, and so on. So I was quite fortunate to have this view, and also my position evolved during those days. I started with really technological jobs because I'm basically a physicist and an engineer. So logically, I started with R&D jobs and so on. But I quickly moved to more business-oriented jobs. I took an MBA in the course of my career, and I handled business positions. So that gave me, I think, an interesting 360 view of the business, both on the technical and business side, which helped me a lot in the following part of my career. And now today, it's really helpful for me to be able to have that view and then help people to complement their own view. So that's basically what I do.
Awesome.
And,
thank you. Let me dive into the, let's define innovation and solutions, etc. How do you define innovation for the cosmetic sector, particularly focused on the packaging solutions? And what do you see for key drivers for innovation in 2025?
Okay, well, innovation is a kind of a difficult buzzword to define because everybody has their own definition. But for me, innovation, first of all, it's not an invention. It's not about I have invented a new widget. The question is, I remember, in my career, I joined a company who was the leader of the lipstick at the time, and they asked me to innovate in lipstick. So, okay, great. You are already the leader and you are asking me to innovate. So I saw the engineers must have, zillions of innovations in their drawers. So I went to the engineers, and one of the guys showed me, oh yes, of course I have this stuff. I say, wow. But and I showed that to I had my doubts. And I showed that to a makeup artist, and his answer was really funny. Say, but this is not a lipstick. This is a screwdriver. So this is to say that engineers very often look at innovation on the technical side. For me, innovation is really providing a service in a better way or in a new way to a consumer, and maybe the consumer is expecting this. But sometimes the consumer is not even knowing what they are wanting. Because if you make an inquiry and ask people, what do you want? They will, of course, relate to what they know. But it's very difficult for them to invent something. So I think the talent of the innovator is really to understand what the field is like and identify in this field some pockets of white space where a service is missing this. And I have not found in my career any product that couldn't be improved. Even products, very, very mature. I was talking about lipsticks a few seconds ago. The lipsticks are, you could say a lipstick is a lipstick is a lipstick. It's so, but there is dozens of ways we could improve lipsticks.
Yeah.
So
okay.
In a nutshell, that's the way I look at innovation. And the drivers for 2025, sorry, the main one for me is sustainability. You could even debate whether it's a trend or whether it's the new normal. For me, it's not any longer a trend, it's the new normal. But it is obvious to see that the industry has still a long way to become sustainable, and that the new regulations coming in line, particularly in Europe, which of course is the territory where they are more stringent. If the regulation that is in process right now in the European Union would pass today, I think 85% of the packaging could not go to the market. So that gives you an idea of the immensity of the challenge that's lying ahead for the industry to transform into something. And of course, this regulation, I didn't say, but it's obvious, is really focused at sustainability, at reducing emissions, at reducing the use of materials, at reducing waste, and so on, which are all very, natural things. We just forgot, and we just got used to, spend very liberally. But recent context reminded us that we are working in a planet that is finite, where resources are finite, and our responsibility is to use them responsibly. So I think that is by far the main challenge for the industry, and not only for 25, but for the decades to come.
Onwards,
Of course, that's not the only one. Sometimes, because I'm so keen about innovation and I spent my life innovating, I regret that this topic is basically hijacking the entire field, and that when you visit a trade show these days, and when you are looking for innovation, there is no other innovation or very little other innovation than sustainability. And as important as it is, it's not the only thing. I think there are a lot of other things that we need to tackle. Ergonomics, practicality, simplicity of use, obtaining a professional result with people that are not, of course, professional. Either a physician in an institute applying a formula, but ideally, you would love that anybody could beneficiate from the same quality of treatment than by going to an institute. So I think there are a lot of more innovation. A lot of innovation apart from sustainability.
Jumping into that, then we have the next question. So how do you balance then also sustainability, of course, but then with, you mentioned balancing creative design, functionality, and of course efficacy within the market?
Yeah, I think well, that's a very good question, because I think this balance is absolutely fundamental. You are not going to, and I have examples of this. Just by making something more sustainable will not make it sell. People don't care. It has to be, of course, sustainable, but it's not an excuse in itself, or it's not sufficient. People will buy functionality, will buy pleasure, because let's not forget that beauty is really a field where, it's one of the last field where you can indulge yourself in some intimate moments with yourself, in your bubble, and taking care of yourself and not thinking about all the hardship out there. So that is a very important function. A lot of people regard beauty as something a little bit frivolous. It can be, of course, but I think it has this fundamental function that to bring comfort and reassurance to people, particularly when it's needed, in hard times. That's the kind of balance I'm trying to find. Of course, it has to bring a value to the consumer, at the same time reducing the ecological imprint. That's the conundrum that you have to solve.
In that aspect, the role of technology, of course, I would like to discuss with you, because technology is rapidly advancing and growing very much. Like, say, smart packaging with AI, with scanning of your face and all these kind of things. What kind of strategy do you see developing for 2025 in combination with the cosmetics?
Yes, sure. I learned during my career that, formulators work hard to create fabulous formulations with incredible ingredients, very innovative molecules, and so on. And of course, this is the key. I'm talking about skincare, of course. And this is really the heart of the thing. But I learned that the efficacy of a treatment is only half. Maybe I'm not saying it's 50%, but say half of it is due to the formula. But the other half, which is equally important, is the way it is applied. That's why I was saying, of course, take the same product, apply it yourself, or go to an institute and have a physician applying to you with the right gesture, the right force, the right movement, and the result is doubled. And this is where I think packaging can help. By merging, we know that there is this field called instrumental beauty that has been developing, people developing devices for massaging, for adding currents, all sorts of physical treatments. So it's basically a physical element complementing the chemical element of the formula. So it's the idea of combining those two areas, the chemistry, because of course the skin is a chemistry, thing, but also the physics of it. The heat, the massage, and so on. All those things can greatly improve the efficacy of the treatment. And what happens today, most of the time, is that those two fields are working separately. You have people developing formulas, and you have on the other side people developing devices, and they very seldom speak to each other. And that's a pity. And I think there is here, at the convergence of those two fields, there is an immense field for innovation. It's typically, the type of field I see for future innovation. So instrumental packaging, smart packaging, and all those things are, I think, a big thing in the future.
Beautiful. Okay, well, as a closing question, I would like to say, if you had anything to share, one piece of advice for brands or packaging companies or something like that, what would that be?
Wow. How much time do I have?
Small. Keep it small and snappy so people remember.
Okay. No, I think brands need to be bold. I think that a lot of what we see today is Me Too's. Brands are always claiming that they're innovating, but when you really look at what's going out, it's a lot of the same thing. And of course I understand why, because it's very risky, to innovate. But I think brands need to be bold, and there are a lot of examples of brands that have been taking risk and being bold and being very successful. So I think that would be my advice.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we've got it. Thank you so much, Gerald, for your time, and we'll speak soon again, I hope, and have a good discussion. Right, well, Andrew, thank you very much for being with us today. Solawave has seen tremendous growth and is basically a leader in the beauty tech, also combining cosmetics as well. Could you introduce yourself, please, and a little bit about Solawave for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So great to be here. I am Andrew Silberstein, one of the two co-founders of Solawave. My background is in marketing and also engineering, and started Solawave in 2020 with the vision of making the world's most compact and effective at-home skincare tools. And really the vision for Solawave is making products that people are excited to use, enough to use regularly, in most cases daily, and to really build rituals and routines for our consumers by pairing technology with thoughtfully crafted topicals to really help them boost the results that they're seeking to achieve with at-home skincare. So we started direct to consumer in 2020, just kind of in the middle of COVID lockdown. And since then, we've expanded pretty rapidly, including with retail, Amazon, and several key international launches. At this point, we have about 8 devices on the market and about 9 topicals that support the results people are looking to achieve with at-home skincare technology.
So you just mentioned briefly the speed of development. I would like to go into that a little bit deeper, because in the beauty tech space, it's forever changing and very fast and rapidly as well. And Solawave needs to actually do the same. Rapid development is one of the parts that you need to focus on. But what challenges really do you encounter very much, and how do you balance for that?
Where to begin? I would say the fun part is consumer interests and trends are changing so rapidly. So it's really exciting to kind of track how certain technologies and treatments and interests are trending either upward or downward. And so, I think the challenge for anyone in the beauty industry is forecasting trends and iterating and developing products quickly enough to meet them before they kind of pass. I would say one thing with Solawave was we really wanted to make sure we were avoiding overly trendy technologies and treatments from the get-go, and really make sure that we're working with technologies like red light therapy that have a plethora of clinical data that we really have a vision will be around and part of more and more people's lives as the years continue. So we do try to avoid the kind of flash of the pan trends, but at the same time, obviously, where we've seen the most success is combining light therapy with other treatments, some of which do become more popular. And so I think it's really how to best forecast those trends and start development quickly enough and develop quickly enough to execute in time with the market. I would say probably the biggest challenge for us is the ever-changing regulatory, positioning of different countries. So interestingly, the US, I feel like, has become a more reliable market, but particularly, for instance, with Europe, there was a lot of change in regulation over the last couple of years. And so it felt like we were halfway through one regulation process and then found out it was changing. And sometimes you don't even know what it's changing to. So I'd say that's definitely been a key challenge. And for us, how we've addressed it is we've focused on fewer markets and really owning those markets before expanding further. And I think it's paid off to date. But I will say, like, I love expansion. I love growth. And I think one thing I'm frustrated about is that we're not in as many countries as I wish we were. But that's kind of how we've mitigated that.
Well, you have seen exceptional growth already. And well, how do you basically strategize for that? How do you scale the business? You mentioned a few platforms, but is there anything in particular that you can mention?
Yeah, I'd say in general, we've always leveraged digital marketing as kind of our predominant source of marketing, which that is really my background. I started out in the entertainment industry on digital marketing as the internet was really taking off as the core place for people to discover content. So I'd say digital has always been a key area for us, particularly because we can test all sorts of messaging. We can learn what claims are resonating with consumers and what imagery is causing people to click more and order more. And then that data has helped us continue to improve and iterate on our products. So for instance, when we launched the brand, I thought our matte black device was going to be our big hit. And it turned out it wasn't. It was our rose gold. And we learned that through advertising data. And since then, that's actually helped us also shape and evolve the brand. So we've really taken the lessons and learnings of what's working digitally and then use that to evolve the brand and our future product offering. But I'd say primarily it's digital marketing, a lot of Instagram and Facebook, paid social media. We've done a lot of influencer partnerships. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of organic celebrity endorsements that leads to a lot of press. And that's probably the area we're most excited for moving forward is more affiliate marketing and less so paid social. And then I think in the last year or two, especially as the world opened back up from COVID, being present in every Ulta store and every Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus has really helped grow the visibility of the brand. So we're finding that people are really starting to discover us in brick and mortar retail now in a way that just wasn't relevant when we launched in 2020 during COVID.
Okay. Just a quick question, maybe a little bit on the side, but are you using any AI and technologies to enhance data analytics or something like that?
Yeah, we are. We're using, I mean, to be clear, my co-founder and I are obsessed with AI, and it feels like there's like 50 new platforms a day. So we've tested a lot of tools. I'd say where we're using it most, particularly the analytics, is we're adding basically AI layers to our analytics data on our website, as well as for our social media analytics. And so it's basically helping us come to conclusions about what's working and what isn't and kind of where to lean into faster than if we were to kind of calculate it ourselves, which is what we used to do. We are leveraging AI for a lot of photography and creative development as well. But I feel like a lot of the creative tools, there's still a lot of work. You know, they're not perfect yet. But I would say AI has definitely helped us more rapidly develop marketing campaigns, develop products. Actually, more recently, it's helped us with product development, which has been kind of interesting. And probably my favorite feature is one of our analytics tools for our website. I can just ask this AI bot a question that's burning on my mind. And instead of waiting for like 3 or 4 days of our team to analyze, I get an answer in about 5 seconds. So definitely loving AI, but I would say like 90% of what I try doesn't really actually provide the benefit that it claims to. But it's rapidly improving. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
You briefly mentioned like collaborations you have with a few big box retailers and beauty stores, etc., but also influencers, etc., and that you want to build out that part. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
On the influencer part?
Which one? Well, you said you mentioned big growth in these indicators. Yeah,
I would say retail, first and foremost, we're very excited about the partners we have, and we have some really major international launches and also Target this year coming out later in the year. So we feel like we have our hands full on the retail side. And I'd say beyond that, our digital team is really focused on how to develop long-term affiliate kind of performance-based relationships with talent. So instead of kind of like the old quote unquote of influencer marketing was like, I'm going to send $100,000 to this influencer and have them post. And what all of us have learned is the algorithms keep changing. And frankly, for instance, I think the most successful piece of content on the internet that went viral about Solawave was from a individual consumer. We didn't know them, we didn't pay them. Wow. And they just produced this amazing video that got about, I think, like 7 or 8 million views organically.
Wow.
Conversely, we've had huge celebrities post us. I think even Kim Kardashian did, and the views were probably like, 0.1% of that. And so, that being said, we've always been a pretty lean company, and we don't have massive marketing budgets. So what we're really investing in are long-term performance-based relationships with creators and influencers. So basically, we're tracking what sales they're driving, and they're getting paid a commission. And then beyond the traditional content creator, we're also developing a program right now that we're just starting to pilot, but with dermatologists, estheticians, med spas, where similarly they can promote our products. They're not necessarily selling them in the store, but they basically they get a branded store, they get a bunch of materials. And again, we kind of pay them on a performance basis. And so I think that's for us a really helpful way to really find the right mutually beneficial partnerships for long-term growth.
Wow. Okay. Looking a little bit ahead to 2025, of course, you mentioned that technology trends that are up like a little blurb in the system, that you don't focus on those. But what kind of beauty tech will you be focusing on then for shaping 2025 and what to launch, etc.?
It's a great question. We are really focused on other areas of the body that we can treat with the technologies that are common in our products. So we're more focused on innovating on form factors and delivery mechanisms of topicals within those form factors. So where we're really focused on our rituals. The majority of our customers, when they come to us, they buy a topical with a device. And from a business perspective, obviously, if you're developing technology, it's really valuable and frankly critical to your long-term business health to have more of a repeat consumer driving high LTV. And so where we're really focusing our innovation are how do we develop intentional topicals and consumable products that really pair and synergize with the technology in our devices to deliver a much better result than either of those products individually. So kind of in a simplified way, it's like 1 + 1 = 3. Yeah. And that is keeping us more than busy because, as I mentioned earlier, there's all sorts of fun regulatory challenges that we all go through as innovators in the space, and combining consumables with devices is just another degree of challenge, but something that we're finding a lot of great success in with our recent launch of Light Boost topicals, which help boost the effects of light therapy. And so we're really digging deeper, I would say equally on topical exploration as we are on technology. I would say the last piece is maybe connected devices, which I'm not patting myself on the back that's like groundbreaking, but for us, I mean, we haven't had a product that's connected yet. And we're really excited to bring our first connected product out to market this year, really to help consumers track their usage, help give them suggestions on how to improve their results, and really collect more data on how users are using our products so we can continue to iterate in our pipeline.
Exciting for 2025. I look forward to seeing more. Some closing questions. What is one of the key takeaways or future recommendation or advice that you would like to give people in the audience?
I would, and this is particularly for creating products.
Well, creating products, but it's also cosmetic packaging, more packaging focused, but also device integration and synergy that you just mentioned, these kind of things.
My number one piece
Sorry.
Yeah, I would say my main piece of advice is, number one, create products that work, put them through rigorous testing, and whatever degree of testing you think is enough, continue further, because our consumers today are very loud. If they have a negative experience, it can really influence the performance of your business or your products. And number two is create really amazing products that are fun to use. I would say that's something I didn't really focus on when we launched our business. Okay. I will be honest, we were focused on, number one, performance and combining technologies that hadn't been combined before. But number two was having them look aesthetically pleasing in Instagram, social media, but even just at home. But what we're finding over the last couple of years, especially, we're researching our consumers constantly that use tons of cosmetic products, and most of them have used all other beauty device companies. And the feedback we keep getting is they love how relaxing and how great it feels to use our products. And so something I hadn't planned for, but something I would suggest to others is, if you can create something that feels great to use, and therefore they want to use it. They wake up every morning, they're excited to use this product. They're going to use it more often, and the results are kind of the cherry on the top. And we've found a lot of growth in that area. So I think just really think about the customer experience using your product and over-invest in that area, because once you kind of crack it, there's just an insane amount of growth you can tap into these days.
Wow, thank you very much for your time, Andrew. I think we got it. Beautiful interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Max. This is great.
Problem. Hi, Denise. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today on the webinar. Would you please introduce yourself and the company, of course, Céleste, a little bit for us to understand who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, yes, my name is Denise. I am CEO and co-founder of Céleste Originals Brands here in the Netherlands. And what we do is we help, what I normally say is we help build your dream. Meaning we have a lot of customers who come to us saying, I've always wanted to start my own makeup line, or I always wanted to create a sunscreen which I could use, but my child could use as well. So that's kind of what we jump in. And we sit together with our customers, defining their strategy, looking at formulations, packaging, branding, and also how they can kind of optimize and put their products on the market in a correct way. We do that mainly in the beauty industry, and we have some wellness customers as well. And then in regards to what I do in the company, so I kind of oversee all the brands, try to get a personal connection with each and one of them, because we feel that's kind of the heart and core of our business, is to get that personal connection, and try to guide my team through the whole development processes. We're definitely also looking to regulatory, because that's a huge part of of cosmetics.
I definitely assume that as well. So the when you go into regulatory or whatever you just mentioned, I bet that regulatory is one of the key components in this. Yes. When we talk about regulatory challenges, etc., what do you see as one of the biggest regulatory changes or things that are going to happen in 2025?
I think we've seen some changes in regulatory in 2024, which kind of will go through in 2025, and it's mostly around natural claims. I think the market is ready for some more rules and regulations around what you can claim in terms of natural products. We know that a lot of people and consumers seek for natural products, but literally you can get a bottle of water, say, hey, this is, your new water cleanser, put a label on, it's natural, and then still it's, you claim something's natural, but what is the end benefit for the consumer? So I really think in terms of natural claims, this will definitely be more stricter in 2025, and also everything around packaging. So what we see, for example, with our customers is if we ask what type of packaging do you want, they say we want sustainability. Okay, sustainability, but what does that entail? Because in some countries, they have a super amazing recyclable system where you can recycle your products very well. But in other countries, you can have the best recyclability, but there's no system. So also I think in terms of sustainability and claims around that, and also hopefully, because I think there's a lot of greenwashing, sustainability washing in our beauty industry, probably more rules and regulations will come.
Wow, okay. And then focused on more of the claim validations as well in that.
Yes, correct. So, for example, if you have a formulation and you claim it to be natural, I think again that's probably one of the most stricter claims that will be looked into in 2025. You will have to prove what does your natural formulation mean, what can you claim, and what does that claim entail. That also means, for example, what we see a huge increase, and it's been there already, but an increase in anti-acne claims. I think anti-acne means a lot of things, and sometimes products on the market claim to be anti-acne, but in reality, it's the ingredients and the active ingredients aren't at that stage where they really can claim anti-acne. So probably you will need a lot more tests. Consumer tests or clinical researches to prove your claims.
Okay. And I take it for claim validation, many brands are actually struggling a lot with cosmetic claims in particularly. Do you have an example of a successful regulatory strategy or something like this?
Yes. What we always advise all of our brands, either new, existing, or just try it in their growth kind of stage, is make sure regulatory is part of your first component in your strategy. So don't look at regulatory or compliance when you have already finished your product and finished your ID, because sometimes you can come up with like such a cool, innovative idea, and you have in your mind, hey, I want to claim, for example, anti-aging, but then you cannot make that claim because there isn't any like substantiation of that claim. So if you kind of make that part of your first initial brainstorm about your product, then you can contact the right person, because often brand creators or founders, they're very creative. They have a lot of good qualities, but regulatory and compliance is often not one of them, because it's something different. So if you think of that at the beginning, attract or hire somebody who is really a professional in regulatory and compliance, you are sure that you're not going to invest all your time and money in a product that in the end you cannot sell because you have no.
Wow. That would be horrible.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, jumping a little bit here then for global compliance, because that might, for any brand, a global compliance strategy, because of rapid globalization, how do you see the regulatory frameworks aligning? You mentioned it's more or less the same as in 2024 as in 2025, but what is it like in key markets? How would you see this in like EU or US and Asia?
You mean differences or more overlaps between those?
Well, the overlapping, how do they overlap, or how do they, differentiate? Maybe a little bit of both.
But luckily, and that's also when we got a briefing from a customer and they say, I want to create this, but it has to be safe and it has to be in line with certain rules. We always say in the time where we are now, 99% of the products are good, because it's very difficult to sell bad products, because in every territory there are the same basic principles. So in terms of beauty formulations, you cannot, if you just go to a good manufacturer, to a manufacturer that has a factory, I think that's the base. If they don't have a factory, I would definitely ask my questions, but if they have a factory, they're likely already doing a lot to be compliant with their territories. What we see is that we always say EU is most strict. That's true up till certain points. So they are strict in terms of labeling, transparency, but also putting your products in the CPMP portal, which is a portal where you register all of your formulations. After UK had their own Brexit, they kind of implemented the same system. So UK and EU are very much aligned. But then when you look at sunscreen, because sunscreen is a different one, here in Europe and UK, it's considered, for example, a cosmetic product. But when you develop a sunscreen you want to sell in the US, it's a different story, because that's a medical product. So in terms of regulation and compliance, you need to have different testings, you have different researchers, a different registration team, but also a different budget. And I think that's also something that a lot of brands and brand founders are surprised with, is the amount of money you kind of need to budget in for your product registrations, if it's in US for more medical products, or if it's in the UK, EU for example, electronic or devices.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's look a little bit into the innovations and regulatory practices now. As you know, everybody's using advanced technology now. Let's say, what role does AI or data analytics basically play in the regulatory compliance, particularly with product claims, etc.?
Yeah. So I am in the office. I'm considered, even though I'm 35, as a boomer. So meaning everything technology and AI, I'm always behind. That said, I think regulatory and compliance and the companies that are specialized in this, they are a little bit the same as me. Meaning in their own kind of structure, they still work as they have worked for multiple years. But that's if you are a brand or a brand founder, or you're the marketing team or the MPD team, you can use AI in a very efficient way to test and check if there's research behind the ingredients, for example, that you want to incorporate in your product. So normally you would really rely on your lab or your regulatory person to help you choose certain ingredients or make sure the ingredient kind of matches your claim that you want to make. But now to AI being there, you can definitely check it yourself. So kind of like that first step is something as a brand that you can do definitely in-house by yourself.
So it speeds everything very much up, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good trend to have in 2025.
Yes.
So when we look ahead, let's say the trend for future and defining the future of cosmetics and beauty packaging, regarding sustainability or consumer safety or traction, what do you see happening here?
So in terms of innovations, formula-wise, I would say we will see a lot of green natural ingredients coming up made by labs. So mimicking natural ingredients and making in a lab, so you can kind of sustain your natural source, but kind of get the same benefits as you will get in from your natural product. So that's what I would see in formulations. I also see more innovations coming into the sunscreen area because people know they have to use sunscreen, but unfortunately there are still a lot of white, thick creams on the market that are unnecessarily very aesthetic to wear. So sunscreen for sure. In terms of packaging, we definitely see it going more towards sustainability. Also transparency in your full chain, because that's something that we always tell our customers. You can be super sustainable in your formula, you can be super sustainable in your packaging, depending on the region where you want to sell. But if you fly in all of your products from Asia to Europe or Asia to US, where then everything you kind of do on your formula and packaging doesn't make any sense if you fly in your product. So I also think the consumer expects more transparency from brands in what is your kind of like full cycle and your full chain of sustainability.
Of course, yeah. Okay, well, final question. Is there any pieces of advice that you would like to share as a wrap-up, let's say?
Yeah, we always say in Dutch, and it's a very Dutch saying, so I'm not sure if this translates very well in English, but the when you start properly, that's half the work. Meaning, if you do your due diligence in the beginning, you will definitely benefit from that longer term. Also, very important, we all can check the internet, what you say. We can all use AI, but please just work together with a third party who is a regulatory expert. So that means that you still overlook everything in compliance, but they will be responsible for getting any questions from authority. They're responsible for getting you as a brand to know exactly when you need to change your formula in 1 or 2 years. So even though it's a cost, it's an extra cost, please budget it in, because it will definitely help you just make sure that you get your timelines, get your product launched, and don't get like any authorities on your back. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Okay, well, I think we've got it, Denise. Thank you so much for your time. I liked talking with you very much, and we'll see you the next year. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, guys. That was a really, really fascinating talk. Lots of insight there. We've had some questions in from the audience, which I'd really like to put forward to you guys. The first being, what are the best strategies to achieve sustainable packaging for most types of products?
I think I can answer that. There is a very practical tool to approach this question. It's called the 3 R's. I think most people know those now. It's reduce, reuse, recycle. It's a very practical way to approach packaging design. Let's remind that sorry, you will have to cut that. Let's not forget that the impact of a packaging is decided at the moment of the brief. Once the brief is made, basically the game is set. You can of course improve a little bit afterwards, but it's really at that time that this is decided. So the 3 R's are have to be applied in that order. First, reduce as much as you can, eliminate everything that is not absolutely necessary, which will save resources and energy. Then reduce as much as you can, because once you have taken the pain of extracting resources, creating packaging, it's simply silly to basically dump that in the bin. So reuse this as much as you can, and make sure that at the end of life it's recyclable. I know that a lot of focus has been put on recyclability lately, and of course it's legitimate. We have to recycle, but it's not the only thing we have to do. It's basically the last thing we have to do. We have first of all to reduce and then reuse.
Amazing. Very insightful. And I guess for my second question, how do you see the future of cosmetics packaging evolving in the future in terms of business potential?
It's a complicated question in the sense that I think that we will see the current landscape of, and I assume that that's off record. I assume this question relates to packaging suppliers, right?
Yes, I assume so.
So it's not an easy question, because I think the current landscape of packaging suppliers, as we know it, is going to change quite radically in the near future. The world as we know it is evolving very fast in terms of in cosmetics, and particularly under the pressure of all the sustainability regulations that are popping up everywhere, particularly in Europe and in the Western world. So a lot of companies are going to struggle, particularly those making plastics. I guess it's not a big secret for anyone. We are going to see a movement from plastics to alternative materials like glass, like aluminium. But of course, plastics is not going to disappear. I mean, plastics are here to stay. Plastic in itself is not a demon material. It's just a material that has to be used responsively and for the right use. So plastic is not going to disappear. So plastic packaging suppliers are going to stay, but of course there will be less plastic and more of the other materials. And also the move to reuse, which is inevitable in the search for a more responsible industry, will have the mechanical result to put on the market less packaging, for the same consumption, packaging being reused. Of course, there are going to be less packaging manufactured. So those two things are going to change quite substantially the landscape. And of course, depending on where you sit on that value chain, it's either good news or bad news or no news.
I would like to add a small thing, because I agree with you that we're moving from a disposable industry to a reusable systems more, and creating value for packaging or for the brands is very important, where you actually have you create keepsake devices, which will then focus on having one single device or a part of the packaging that has the extra value, where you then actually have, you don't have to get rid of it, and you will have a reusable industry, what Gerald also mentioned before. And with the integration of smart technologies, we will then at one point with AI or more personalization and multifunctionalities, we will see a drive also for these reusable systems. And of course, with technology in the smart packaging, with, for example, an NFC or user-specific treatments, these will all start becoming quite, they will enhance, of course, loyalty and more of a long-term value perspective.
Amazing.
If I may just comment on that, because I think it's very interesting. Thank you, Max. I totally agree with what you said. And I think the reuse movement is a tremendous opportunity for brands to create higher value packaging, either aesthetically or functionally or both. Packaging that people will want to keep. So that translates for packaging manufacturers in a trend that rather than zillions of low-value packaging, less higher value packaging that people are going to want to keep, that they will not want to dispose because the value will just make it obvious that they will have to keep it.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. And I guess that kind of, we have another question here, which I think is very interesting. I'd like to hear your answer for. What about biopackaging?
Bioplastics.
Bioplastics, yes. What are sort of the challenges around that? Prices?
Yeah, bioplastics are available for quite some time now, but they are growing at a very high rate. For the moment, they represent, I would say, 2% of the total consumption of plastics, but they grow at, I think, 30 or 40% a year. So it's a tremendous growth. So we are starting from low, and they are quickly taking up a significant share of the plastics categories. Bioplastics, of course, have a tremendous advantage. They are bio-based, so they come from renewable resources, and they also come with lowered CO2 footprints for the simple fact that they are grown. So during the phase of growth, they absorb CO2. That's, of course, a big advantage compared to oil-based plastics. Nevertheless, bioplastic is not a silver bullet in itself, because, first of all, there is a confusion sometimes between bioplastics and biodegradable plastics. Those two terms are different. You know, there are biodegradable plastics that are not bio-based, and there are bio-based plastics that are not biodegradable. So, but some of them are biodegradable. So it creates an alternative way of disposing the packaging rather than having to recycle it. It can be disposed properly in composting industrial streams. So that's an interesting alternative. Eventually, it will come back to earth and be contributive for the next generation of crops. But it's, as I said, it's not a silver bullet in the sense that, okay, it saves on oil and fossil resources, but it takes on land that cannot be used for other things, and today or soon we'll have to address the need for feeding a growing population. So there will be a kind of competition between and not only bioplastics, but also biofuels and so on. So this is a much wider question than just packaging. So I would say, in a nutshell, bioplastics are interesting. We have to keep an eye on them. They are not a silver bullet that will basically magically transform the use of plastic in something harmless. Sorry.
Interesting.
Yes, and if I may add on that, in terms of bioplastic, but in all sustainable materials, the compatibility with formulation is just not always good enough. Meaning, for standard glass or standards, unfortunately, the less sustainable plastics, we know a lot of formulations are compatible, but sometimes with sustainable materials, your compatibility of your formula with the packaging might decrease. So that's just one challenge from formula development side.
And another thing is that they sometimes have a shorter lifespan than the other plastics. Yeah. So in terms of reuse, for example, it might pose a challenge. And also some of the biodegradable class of bioplastics, a biodegradable plastics biodegrades at some time. So the shelf life might be shortened, and the compatibility with the formula, as Denise said, can be a challenge, particularly for water-based formulas, which are the majority.
Interesting. Yep. And I'm going to move forward because I'm really interested to hear about formula and ingredients. So the question I have here, which is, how is consumer interest in ingredient transparency and safety affecting marketing and sales strategies for cosmetics skin cleanser brands?
It already depends on who your target audience is. So when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about ingredients, apology. Just pause for a moment, and my dog is quiet.
Second, pause for maybe just 5 seconds.
Jordan.
Speaking again.
Jordan, go.
I think it might be slightly lagging on your end there. Maybe, Denise, if you just say something or...
Yes. So can you repeat the question? I will start from there.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Yes. I'm going to move the conversation just forward a little bit towards ingredients and formulation. And a question I have here is, how is consumer interest in ingredient transparency and safety affecting marketing and sales strategies for cosmetic skin cleanser brands?
So I think in the cosmetic industry, consumers, and especially a very specific group, they expect transparency in all phases of the brand, meaning from packaging design, from the materials used, ingredients, but also what brands say. So I would say that brands need to incorporate kind of their storytelling from the beginning on. So when they start with their brand, if the brand is not already existing, start with how can I incorporate being transparent to my customer from the beginning on, and how does that translate to my packaging design? How does that packaging design translate to my marketing outlets, but also in my points of sales, for example, in displays in stores or at certain events? And I think the brand's focus will definitely be a lot more on the storytelling about transparency rather than just putting on the packaging, because consumer nowadays, they kind of pick through immediately if a brand is just communicating something or if they really tell the story about what they are doing in terms of being more sustainable, using better ingredients, or being just more transparent as a brand as a whole.
Amazing. And I guess sort of following on from that, what do you see as some of the most efficacious solutions for cosmetics?
So from our point of view, what we really see happening is the whole biotechnology developments, where ingredients are engineered in the lab, and they can be a lot more efficacy than just natural products or from just a standard range of raw materials used. What we also see is the difference in delivery system, where you can use a normal dropper to apply your serum. If you have a different delivery system which could benefit the penetration of your formula, this could be a microneedle patch, for example, or any other extra delivery system that could help penetrate your product better into the skin, but also be red light therapy in this case. That would definitely help for better penetration, but also to boost your active ingredients.
Incredible.
I would like to add a little bit on that as well, regarding the transparency that we're talking about. Of course, there's a shift as well in the, let's say, smart packaging, where the treatments become, or the information that a customer gets on a personal basis with, let's say, skin measuring device or measuring options for packaging to actually have an increase as well, where it's part of the solution that a brand is, for example, giving it. And then exactly what you say, with light therapy or with microcurrents, you can actually increase the efficacy of these formulations that you put on your skin, because then you can boost it with anything from, upwards from 20 to 30% and upwards that we see already in in labs and laboratory tests, etc. So that in the transparency of efficacy is key, is a trend that we can see as well developing.
Amazing. And in terms of the EUDR, are cosmetics going to be added to the EUDR's list of categories?
if I'm correct, we already have to comply with certain rules in regards to that regulation. So I would say yes.
Yes.
Brilliant. And then for the next question, I've got here the innovative packaging materials and the adherence of these materials in terms of WRT, sustainable, green chemistry, and safe environmental profiles. Could you elaborate a bit on those, please?
I will take the question. Or do you want to do it, Gerald? Sorry.
No, go ahead, Denise.
No, so from our point of view and the customers that we work with, there is a big demand on alternative materials because the brands, they want to be sustainable, but they also don't want to be the same. So they want to have an approach where they can be sustainable, but they can also be unique or new to the market, even though that's very difficult. What's an upcoming material that we see a lot is the mushroom-based packaging. And then not so much for primary, but more for the secondary packaging.
Great.
Yes, I can add to that
yes,
paper is having a moment. Paper and fiber packaging in general, and of course, paper has been used for ages for secondary packaging, but paper is moving to primary packaging. The challenge is that paper has a problem. Paper doesn't provide naturally a barrier, and very often, more often than not, the formulations require to be protected from oxygen, from light, and from dehydration. And paper is not the best material for that. But there is a tremendous R&D going on this field. And, a lot of companies, startups and big companies are improving the use of paper by adding coatings. And of course, coatings is a very difficult field because if you take paper which is inherently sustainable and coat it with a very bad plastic like PFAS, you haven't gained much. But there are a lot of works being done on sustainable and biodegradable barriers that will enhance the possibility to use paper and fiber packaging in general more and more. So that will provide both differentiation, new opportunities for designs that will stand out, and of course, more sustainable packaging.
Amazing.
Yeah. And to add a little bit here, sorry, we of course prioritize very much the materials, and innovative materials are of course key in this aspect, as long as with integrating sustainability or bioplastics or whatever, we cannot compromise on performance, and that is the key that will resonate, I think, through the industry as well.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course, that goes without saying, but it's better to say it. The first and foremost function of a packaging is to protect the formula, and if you whatever you do, this is the goal number one. So that's why paper is presenting some challenges, but again, those challenges are going to be, I think, progressively resolved. So it's not going to be black and white. We're not going to move from 100% plastic to 100% paper industry, of course. But this is going to provide more options for brands, and of course, it will be up to them to use that in a relevant way, in a meaningful way.
Okay, it's already gone. So talk to me about these single-use beauty products, so sheet masks, one-time-use ampules, and do they hinder the future of sustainability in beauty, and how can brands resolve this?
Yes, so single-use products in the core are not sustainable. So if, as a brand, you want to kind of step away from that and be fully sustainable, look for options that could offer the same, but in a sustainable format. For example, you could do sheet masks in a flow pack, meaning you can have 50 sheet masks in one packaging rather than just one flow pack of one sheet mask in one flow pack.
Amazing. And then for the last question,
and next to that, if you want to still offer single-use products, sorry.
No, please. Let's take that one again. Sorry, just. Do you want to say what you said again?
And if you do want to remain, if you still want to pursue single-use products, make sure you use either biodegradable options or monomaterials if that works with the products.
Amazing. And for my last question, in a nutshell, in the cosmetics industry, how can packaging design effectively balance sustainability goals with the need to capture consumer attention, especially in a highly competitive market?
Do you mind if I answer this one?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we already touched on this one a little bit before. I think the reuse trend is really our best foot forward, in the sense that it allows, first of all, to reduce significantly the impact of the packaging, but also it allows to brands to put more value into the packaging itself. So it really again, there is no silver bullet, but if there was one, I think it would be reuse. And reuse really allows to bridge that gap and also to enhance the consumer experience. If you think about what happened recently in other fields like food, for example, you had very basic and uninteresting categories that became very interesting with the use of reusable packaging. For example, a basic olive oil bottle becoming from single use to a reuse one, and the brand being able to really make that bottle very special and being a want item. This is also happening in less engaging beauty categories like deodorant. Deodorant is really something that most people would not be very engaged with. And since, for example, there is a very interesting experience that P&G made with Dove. They made their deodorant refillable, and instead of basic plastic stuff that projects no value, you have a lifetime stainless steel packaging that is beautiful and that you want to keep. So reuse is both a way of bridging the gap between sustainability and desirability, and also an opportunity for brands to enhance the consumer experience.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's all.
I would like to add a small thing there with exactly what Gerald just said. The aesthetics plus the functionality to generate more value in the packaging itself is where it's going with the value, sustainable value, let's call it.
Sustainable value, that's the key.
Amazing. Brilliant. That's all the questions we have time for today. But thank you so much for chatting us through and offering all that insight. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for having us.
Thank you to everyone who joined us today. If we didn't have time to get round to your question, all of the information has been shared with Nuon and they will be in touch shortly. I would like to thank Alain, Andrew, Gerald and Denise for their insightful commentary and responses to the questions, as well as for everyone working hard behind the scenes to make this webinar happen. Thank you.